Bottom of the well. I don't know how we got here, but here we are all the same. It's chilly and dark, and all hope has been vanquished. Poetry is not a whore or a manservant. It's another tool, another form of expression, like insurance fraud, but far more lucrative. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about, because I know you speak the language of love and hate and all the other squishy emotions existing between the South and North Poles. I remember when we met in that diner on the outskirts of that city. I wanted to order chocolate cake, but you said it wasn't American. So I ordered apple pie a la mode, and instead I choked it down like all Christians choke on Jesus's communion wafer. I'm not intending to be blasphemous. That's just how it comes out when there's a gun to my head and terrorism has become the new patriotism. I'll never forget when we fell down that rabbit hole. But because your name was Alice, you were treated differently. As the Queen of Hearts repeated over and over again, "Off with their heads!" As I did nothing more than simply ask for a glass of water. I'll never forget staring death in the hollows of the erroneous face, and how emotionless and unforgiving I felt as I went mad from unsuccessfully trying to feed my head. I don't know what it is about the bottom of this well, but something's telling me I have been here before. The deja vu washes over me like reruns of unaired Honeymooners episodes, as you sit there in the corner of the room like some ventriloquist's dummy that's been left in the desert for 40 nights and 40 days. There's something to be said for changing the conversation by simply changing the color of one's stripes. But for some of us, it's not that easy or advisable when the terms dictated are the very same principles you abandoned so long ago. This is a dramatic pause. Slather on the mustard. I'm hungering for your intellect. Let's objectify each other's minds until we're satiated and out of time. I'm craving your principled stands, sticking it to the man. I'm craving your principled stands, sticking it to the man. Let's take a road trip to the other side of this fractured world until we've exhausted our bank accounts and goodwill. I double dog dare you to slather the mustard on your corn dog until it resembles the yellow line running down the sun's not yellow, it's chicken back. Patriotism is such a loaded word, especially when the Second Amendment kills more people than it protects. Yes, it's true, I'm a liberal, but I'm hardly a bleeding heart, and I will refuse to call myself a progressive until the day I breathe my last exhausted breath. Senator Bernie Sanders being a Democratic socialist isn't what's keeping him out of the White House. Take it from a fellow Hebrew when I tell you it's his being Jewish that makes it less than palatable for most people to vote for him. We're all about showing our love for Israel, but when push comes to shove, most people could care less if Israel was pushed into the Sea of Galilee. It's not that I don't want to give thanks. I've just never been very good at seeing the glass half full, and oftentimes wonder why we cannot just smash the glass and stand or fall on our own 2 feet. I'm not hiding in the closet, but I still refuse to discuss my sexual orientation with you. Oh, I'm as straight as they come, but even if I wasn't, what business would that be of yours? I grew up with Bruce Jenner on the Wheaties box, and I'm wondering if putting Caitlyn Jenner on that same box has been seriously discussed. I can't stand Bruce, and I'm really not sure what to make of Caitlyn. And yet, when I was 8 years old, it meant so much to me to see him on that box of cereal, and I believe it would mean just as much, if not more, for children to see Caitlyn Jenner on that same Wheaties box. This is entitled Fear Cripples You. I would say let's watch our tone, but what would be the point? We've all done things we're not proud of. We've all had our grip on sanity loosened as the darkness feeds on our psyches, and we are bound to come up short, and we're no longer bound for glory. I would say stop throwing stones if you live in a glass enclosure, but we all live in glass houses, and sometimes it's not enough telling right from wrong or separating good from evil. I was afraid of my own shadow until realizing I was using myself as a punching bag, and if I wasn't careful, I would consume my very soul and be left with nothing but doom and gloom in its wake. Fear cripples you by making you feel like only in its embrace are you safe. It creates its own comfort zone of deniability. And before long, only hate speech is emanating from your exit wounds. We must treasure the time we have left, right and center, and stop catering to the lowest common denominator as we drag ourselves back into the sunlight. I would say we best watch our tone, but what would be the point when the white noise of political correctness is all around us and where we have forgotten what it means to love our neighbors? I was standing my ground, gathering up all the strength I possibly could, when they pinned a Star of David on my chest. At first, I couldn't believe this was happening. But then I began to understand. Too many people use history as a closed fist and not as a wide open expanse to the future. The fog of love, lost in the dark stank of your love. I'm drowning, and I'm not even sure that Dare Abbey can right this ship. I'm full of rice and beans and lots of other stuff I refuse to own up to without my attorney present. The fog of love is not happenstance, or for that matter, even circumstances gone awry. There were no coincidences when we met each other. Let's try that again. There were no coincidences when we met each other. Let me try that one more time. There were no coincidences when we met, other than me being asleep in front of that ballpark in South Bend, and you at another gate waiting like a bandit for the world to end. It is time for me to lay down, because oftentimes only sleep can cure what ails us. And that includes the stench of guilt dripping from our every exposed and unexposed cavities. Memory lane did not quite suit me, so I put on a football uniform and pretended I was an athlete for a spell. Not really. No one believed me, and before you know it, I was back on the bench, wishing a cheerleader or a band geek would take pity on my wallflower standing. I sit here waiting for the words to come, and when they don't, I do my best to take it until I either make it or I break into the teeniest pieces and parts of another comatose poet, hell-bent on diving headfirst into oblivion without even a spell checker to right my wrongs. I know you thought I was a better man, so I bet it came as quite a shock when the curtain was pulled back and you realized my strings could be pulled just as easily as any puppets, and my survival status was about to be revoked for failing to answer the call when Darwin came knocking on my tortoiseshell. Lost in the perversity of another hangover that could have so easily been avoided. I don't believe Charlie Sheen has a compassionate bone in his soulless body. And what's with all these self-serving actors who have everything handed to them on a gold or silver platter, and they still expect unprotected sex even when they're HIV positive, because he was famous long ago for playing the electric violin on Desolation Row. It's true. Not all of us have tiger's blood or are on the path to winning, but we mustn't forget being a complete unknown often outweighs all the red carpets, free gift bags, and free drugs. Because going through life as an anonymous entity really is a gas, and beats the rude awakening of no longer being a celebrity and not even being able to land a commercial for toe fungus. I want to read one more older poem, and then I want to read 4 newer pieces I just wrote. This is entitled, Inspiration Sucks the Very Life Out of Me, and I Like It. It's only poetry, and I like it. And this one's for all the poets out there who do actually have an actual clue. You know who you are. Hold your applause, but by all means pat yourselves on your backs, because it's all said and done and I've disappeared out the back door. Excuse me. I'm inspired. I'm not. I have no idea where the inspiration is gone, but I cannot even begin to tell you how ecstatic I am when it returns and chooses to play with me again. I was a thief, but I wasn't anybody's savior. So you can stuff your paltry impressions of me inside of your Sherlock pipe and suck it at your own discretion. Yeah, I'm on food stamps, but who isn't that's actually worth a damn and is willing to run at the wall with all the gumption they've got before they cannot even recognize their best friend or their best friend's dog, and they're sitting on a bench drooling, feeding the pigeons silences. I'm not a tall drink of water. In fact, I'm not even a shot in a beer. But that's okay, because I still pack enough of a punch to set you back on your heels if you're into that sort of thing. I met John Burroughs in Canton, Ohio at some coffee shop I'm pretty sure I'll never set foot in again. I really thought great things would come from that fortuitous meeting, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Of course, my instincts, as focused and as razor sharp as they often are, doesn't mean that I always get it right, or for that matter, even know what's really happening much of the time. We lean into it. We grow our hair long and believe we're letting our freak flags fly, when actually we're too buttoned up for our own good. And until we figure out how to unzip our minds, the terrorists will win with their fear and their hatred and their loathsome way of turning our most hallowed of beliefs into some vile mind game, ensuring our very destruction. Whenever someone espouses the words holy war, just know they're completely full of radioactive shit and will do their very best to run you down in the street like a dog. Because if they don't silence you, or at the very least blow themselves up while trying to silence you, then they'll have to live with themselves for another uninspired, methodical day. And that's something no one wants to face, especially when they have no real love to give. Getting to know you. These next 4 are brand new. Getting to know you. Want to climb a rock wall with you in some nondescript strip mall in the middle of deadpan America. Write a blank check for all of the collateral damage I've caused by sticking to the yellow line running down my back like a lemonade human stain. Trusting myself has become a tricky business in these days of prefabricated rock and nights of slice and dice rap. The Statue of Liberty called, wanting to know where all the immigrants had gone. Said she was lonely and wished someone would stop and frisk her. First impressions can be as poisonous as snake venom or conservatism. I chained myself to a metal god, believing that would keep me safe from all the unnecessary construction inside my wind gap head. He understood all too well how this crapola system worked, so when it came time for him to check out, he didn't bitch or moan. And instead he welcomed his ending as an angel pushed him out of a tree and his air supply ran for the burning hills. I want to go the distance with you while we're still both relatively young and our pieces and parts can still be recognized for what they were originally designed to do. I caught sight of you in that third eye waiting room, and I knew some of my prayers had been answered, while others have been placed on hold indefinitely. I have 3 more. If I can get them to open. Let's see. Here comes another one. They're coming in fits and starts. Press play. I have to write a note telling myself to push back on the despair. Making the bed and putting on my shoes isn't enough to break this fast of loneliness. This old lion has finally realized that Chicken Little is hardly more than an appetizer. Praying the spectacle inside my head doesn't get canceled before the first season runs itself ragged before running out of gas and belly laughs. She was a dream come true until recognizing I was the nightmare keeping her insomnia awake and ready to tear out its own hair. Popularity has never made a lick of sense to me, especially when the madhouses are filled with those either too afraid to take a shot or whose shot cost them everything they believed sacred. I have to tie a string on the end of my finger to remind myself I'm still alive and basking in the easy-baked sun. I so desperately deserved I so desperately desired a leg up before grasping platform heels are just another crutch, keeping me far removed from greatness. This Yankee Doodle dandy has had enough pomp and circumstance and has decided to try anonymity on for size. Before all the piñatas are pummeled into the south of the border confetti, and a feather in our caps just means more aggravation when attempting to burn the American flag. Number 3. I just wrote this. This is my newest poem. Swamp Cooler Etiquette for Violet. For Violet. For Violet. Tap, tap, tapping. Subconscious. Can't stand the heat. Kitchen stands at attention. Said she was tight. Said he had a gun. Everything she said cut into me like random bullets. We're not victims. Victimhood a puddle we mustn't jump into like children. Rain sent as a group text to all my non-friends. Tick-tock ticking birdhouse soul weighing me down in splattered intervals of expanding time. I met her circus dog and watched as he danced around in circles. At a loss for words, which is nothing new, in my sorry state of humanness. I'm in so much pain as I'm reading these. My leg is killing me. My ankles, really, tightening of my ankles. The sciatica. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This last piece, if you haven't seen it, I've never watched it until just recently, America's Got Talent. But I happened to watch the audition of Courtney Hadwin when Howie Mandel, yes, that Howie Mandel, hit this golden buzzer. So she doesn't, not buzzard. He beat up the buzzard. He just beat up this golden buzzard. Beat the shit out of it. He hit this golden buzzer, and so she doesn't have to go through any other. She goes right to the live shows. Her performance, she did this Otis Redding song. It's just, you have to see this performance. YouTube it. Courtney, Courtney Hadwin, Hadwin. So I wrote this poem for her. Actually, sent it to her on Twitter, but I have yet to hear anything from her. I hope she likes it. It's called Possessed. The music flows from her like pure adrenaline. The natives are restless, watching you conquer the hapless hordes. Rings the living bell when stepping out on stage, and takes her audience hostage with grace and genuine soul. Experiencing Courtney perform reminds me I'm very much alive, and there's still work to be done. Accomplishments come in fits and starts when you're a whirlwind of talent and a wonderkind of epic proportions, holding back nothing as she blazes trails poured in molten lava. Out of the mouths of babes is never proven more relevant or trustworthy, as we are taken down a road of immeasurable kindness, trapped inside my own head. Then I watched Courtney on America's Got Talent, and it sheltered me in place, and it kicked me back into overdrive. We are stardust. We are golden. We are billion-year-old carbon, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden. Now. More than ever. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate